Good morning and welcome to Practical Christian Lessons. I almost forgot our channel name for a second. I am Joshua Pearsall. We're going to be going over Wisdom of Sirach, chapter 9. Just a quick note on the first section of these. If you guys don't have a copy, we're going through the NRSV, and they'll have different headings throughout the chapters. Like the start of this is called Behavior with Women, and then the next one's Friends and Neighbors, and the next one is Wise Leaders. Just a quick note on behavior with women. There is some good advice in here, absolutely. It is not saying avoid women. Just to make that clear. Other places in Scripture, and then there will be places in the Wisdom of Sirach itself here in the Apocrypha where it'll go over women again. Sorry for women, there's not like a men's section as far as I'm aware. I could be wrong, there's like 64 chapters in here. But, Proverbs 31 is one people always go to, but there's other places in the Proverbs, like I think Proverbs 12:4. I think other places, it's not just like avoid women at all costs. It's be wise, and it's the same with when you're a man talking with men or a woman talking with men and women or women, right? Whatever. I should say whatever. Just like in friendships in general, specifically is what I'm talking about here, or in work relationships or anywhere. Be wise in who you're interacting with and who you're talking to. Let me silence this real fast. Don't just go with people because of looks or because of money or power or anything else. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with people, especially if you're letting them influence you, that are good influences, that are wise, that are godly, etc. Keep that in mind when you're reading this, because this is just like warnings. And if you only read this, you might get the wrong impression. So let's get right on into chapter 9. Do not be jealous of the wife of your bosom, and so teach her an evil lesson about yourself. Do not give your soul to a woman to let her trample on your strength. Do not meet with a woman who is a courtesan, lest you fall into her snares. Do not associate with a dancing girl, lest you be caught in her schemes. Do not gaze at a virgin, lest you stumble and pay damages for her. Do not give your soul to prostitutes, lest you destroy your inheritance. Do not look around in the streets of a city, and do not wander about in its deserted sections. Turn your eye away from a woman with a shapely figure, and do not gaze at beauty belonging to another. Many have been led astray by the beauty of a woman. An erotic love is like a burning fire. Never dine with another man's wife, and do not share in parties with her over wine, lest your soul turn aside to her, and you slip and with your spirit fall into destruction. Do not forsake an old friend, for a new one is not equal with him. A new friend is like new wine, and drink it with pleasure only after it ages. Do not envy the honor given a sinner, for you do not know what his end will be. Do not delight in the pleasure of the ungodly. Remember that they will not be declared righteous even in Hades. Keep far away from a man who has the power to kill, and you will not be anxious about the fear of death. But if you come near him, do not offend him, lest he take away your life. Know that you are stepping in the midst of snares, and walking about the battlements of a city. Evaluate your neighbors as best you can, and consult with those who are wise. Let your reasoning be with those who are wise. And let all your talk be about the law of the Most High. Let righteous men be your dinner companions, and let your boasting be in the fear of the Lord. A work will be praised for the skill of its craftsmen, and a wise leader of people for the skill of his words. A talkative man is regarded with fear in his city, and a man who is reckless in his speech will be hated. I just want to highlight, I guess 3 things. A note on do not gaze at a woman with a shapely figure. Clearly, once you factor in the next line, it's talking about you shouldn't be just staring at people anyway, in a lustful way, but that's talking about staring at whether, say you're in a relationship, or just in general, don't be lusting after women. It's kind of the intention of this. There's nothing wrong with beauty, there's nothing wrong with attraction, but it shouldn't be your only focus, and you shouldn't let it lead you into lust. Those are the 2 big things there. It says Hades here, which is a big note on the Apocrypha, and I don't think I touched on this in my introduction to the Apocrypha, but there should be another video in my introduction to the Apocrypha I think talks on this. The Apocrypha comes from Greek, not Hebrew, for the most part, if not in all of its entirety. I'm not learned on every book in the Apocrypha. but I do know most of them, if not all of them, come from the Greek. They come mostly from Hellenized Jews, which is just those Jews who were in Greek culture, influenced by Greek culture when they were exiled from the temple. My apologies, and moved into Greek territories, which is why this says Hades and not Sheol. Hades, if anyone is wondering, is basically the Greek equivalent of Sheol. They have a slight different conceptions on what exactly happens in Hades and Sheol, but the idea of it is pretty much still the same. This dark place where souls just kind of go and exist in this sort of miserable, shadow-like state. Not good, even for the righteous. In a lot of culture, Sheol is not viewed very heavily. And of course, there's not like one view on Sheol and Hades in ancient literature. There's variety of views, but for the most part, and the general view is it's quite negative. And even for heroes, you don't want to go there. I think it's I might get this wrong, but in Homer's Odyssey, I believe that Odysseus meets Achilles. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this. I have not read the Odyssey in a very long time. But he meets an ancient hero who is in the afterlife. And for the Greeks, the memory of people is what keeps them more intact in the afterlife. And the less people think about them, the less they're remembered. They start to sort of like fade and crumble into these like shades and like hollow echoes of themselves. But he meets this great hero who's still talked about, and he's like, yeah, I would much rather be alive as like a peasant that no one knows than here in Hades. This is a miserable experience. So not a good thing. And then what was the next one? Let me find it really fast. When it says, and let all your talk be about the law of the Most High, that doesn't necessarily just mean like the literal laws in the Old Testament. The Torah also translates into the law. It can also be translated into the teaching. I think most oftentimes the law is the correct translation, and the understanding of what it means when it says the law needs to be understood, both in the sense of laws and in the sense of instruction and teaching. Because it's not just the instruction and teaching in the Old Testament isn't just meant, even when it's not part of the laws, it's still meant to be sort of like a law code, like a moral code. Which you don't find a whole lot of moral law codes in the Old Testament. In the Old Testament world, in the ancient Near East. This is one of the places you do find it in the Bible. Not here in the Apocrypha, in the Bible. Well, that is it for today, guys. Definitely a lot more commentary than I was expecting. As hopefully is obvious, my recovery is going well, despite the fact I'm still a little pale. But I'm getting my energy back a lot quicker than expected, which is really good. So we'll have more videos like this moving into the future, and I'm super excited about that. You guys have a wonderful day, and God bless.